What is up, guys? My name is Nathan, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use the Transform tool in Lightroom CC 2015. Alright, so first off, I have this image that I took in the Lincoln Memorial at Washington, D.C. And as you can see, oftentimes when you're taking images of buildings that have straight lines, the lines will be bowed depending on how wide of a lens you used, or depending on whether you were looking up or down. But as you can see, these are obviously not tilted in real life. They're supposed to be straight. And when you can't get on the same level as something, this often happens. And it's something you have to deal with in your photos because it's just kind of distracting and it's not really what was depicted on the day. So down here in the Transform tab, you'll see that up here you have a tool, like most other tabs, for guided upright tool. The shortcut is Shift T, and if you just click it, you'll see that you get this little picker tool, and you get a little magnifying glass next to it. If you move your mouse over an edge, you'll see that you can see the edge fairly clearly. And what the idea of this tool is you're supposed to click at one point that is supposed to be a straight line, and then drag while still clicking down further in the line. And then you can see right there in the window, that's where the line is. So that's straight. That's exactly how the line is straight. And then you do that to another point in the image. So right over here, I'll do it the exact same one. And start there, click and drag down here, and right back on the line. So that is perfectly straight. And now what it's going to do is it's going to correct for the straightness in the image. So as you can see, this line is now perfectly straight, and because these lines are straight, I know that these lines are straight. And you know, these lines up here might still be a little bit bowed, but that's something we can fix in a little bit. So as you can see, that fixed that problem, but the problem we have now is these white edges and this is because we didn't have constrain crop on. So if you just toggle constrain crop, it will get rid of those lines and it will crop your image inward to the point where it doesn't lose as much detail as it can. It tries to retain as much information and the size of the image without, you know, getting these white borders to show. So right here, it's figured out is the best point to crop at. And as you can see, it kind of changes the image. And you know, I don't like how it clipped out the bottom of Lincoln's toes. So right there, that's just a way that you can do a transform to straighten lines, but it's not always the best way. Now you can always go down here and you can maybe change, let's see, the Y offset, but then it just makes a really big jump from the top here. So, you know, it's up to you. You can always adjust things, but I'll get into these sliders in a minute. So besides doing it manually, you have a couple other options. I'm just going to reset the crop here. Besides doing it manually, you can either select auto, which will do that, what we just did, completely automatically, and I'll just leave constrain crop on automatically for this. And as you can see, it straightened out all the lines, and we didn't have to do anything, and it's a pretty good job. So I use auto quite often. And then there's guided, which is the same exact thing as what we did. It actually knows the things, the information we put in with these pickers. So if we delete this, and then see if we can delete this one. There we go. It's going to actually have us pick a tool, because right now it's not doing anything because it doesn't have any information to go from. So it wants us to redraw our lines. Alright, and then if you have level, what this looks for is horizontal lines, and this right up here is a horizontal line, and it's just going to make this straight. So it's not going to do anything with the vertical lines or like any skew that you might have in the image. It's just going to level out the image. Alright, and vertical is the exact opposite. It does verticals. So then this right here is going to be bowed a little bit and maybe not that straight, and it's just going to straighten all these verticals. Now, as you can see, it did an alright job, but it's still not quite right. As you can see up here, if you follow this line right on the very edge down, you'll see that it actually bows out still. So it didn't completely fix it, but for doing it automatically, it's not too bad. And then full right down here is going to do everything. So it's going to level it automatically on both the horizontal and vertical axis. So sometimes full is a good option, and then sometimes just using auto is a better option. You know, it's up to you, and depending on the image. So for this image, I would stick with auto because I think that looks the best. It keeps most of Lincoln down here. If I wasn't going to touch any of these tools, I would just leave it with auto. But since I'm going to show you how to use these tools, we're going to do it all manually. So just reset the crop here. And then down here you can see that you've got quite a few different sliders to play with. Right here at the top is the vertical slider, and this is the same thing as the vertical tab up here, except you have to do it manually. So if you go to the left, you'll see that it straightens it out upwards. And if you go to the right, you'll see that it tries to flatten out the image downward. It's kind of hard to explain it like that, but if you play around with it, you'll see what I mean. Always keep constrained crop on too, because that helps. So if you just look at a line, say I want to straighten for this line to be completely straight, which I think we've got it right here. You just look at that and adjust it to that point. And then if you look over here at this side, once again we have a very straight line. So that's perfect. Alright, and then right here in the horizontal tab, you can see that it kind of skews the image left and right. And for this image, I don't really need to use this too much because I spaced out these pillars quite evenly, except maybe you could use it a bit more to the left. It's not a very dramatic change, maybe +3. Oftentimes when I'm messing with these sliders, I find myself just typing in the number because it's more difficult to just try to slide to the correct point than just type it in over here. So that's something to keep in mind. Alright, and then right here you have the rotate slider, but you can just rotate the image. Right here you have the aspect slider, and this will either elongate or compress the image. And this will mess with buildings quite a bit. So if you have a tall building, you can make it look really short and stout, or make it longer. But it's not for this image, I don't think. So down here you have scale. This just scales in to the right and then scales out to the left. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do this with every image because you can't just create detail that wasn't there initially. So usually there's a point that you can't go past. And another thing to note, when you try to double click to reset the scale, for some reason, if I'm out here and it resets, it'll crop in like a weird way. I'm not sure why it does this, and I'm not sure if there's a way you can like just set a menu to correct it. But now if we go all the way out, it stops right at the point where we started. So it's kind of a weird bug, but I guess the only way to fix that is to go up here and then reset the crop, and then go down here, reset the scale, and then constrain crop, and that's fixed it, and we're back at 0. But it's kind of an inconvenient bug. Alright, and then right here in the X offset, you'll see that it just moves the image. If you slide to the right, it moves to the left, and if you go to the left, it moves to the right. Kind of backwards, but it's just an offset, so it's in negative values. And then Y offset is pretty much the same thing, up and down. For this image, as you can see, I have heads in the bottom of the image, and I don't really want to have their heads in there, and this thing got messed up again. So when you double click any of these, if it's at a value at all, it's going to mess up the crop. So go up here, and if that happens to you, just reset it, and then reset that. I'll probably have to reset it. Nope. Okay, so we're back at ground 0 again, and then constrain crop. As you can see, like I was saying, I've got heads down here, and you can pretty easily get those out of the image by either cropping it with the crop tool, or you can just use the transform tool and bring the image just up a little bit. So as you can see, using the Y offset, if we slide to the left, we can just clip all their heads out without having the need to crop the image and lose pixels. Alright, right about there, and that's it. So another thing to keep in mind after you're using the transform tool is if you have any dodging and burning or ellipses or brushes or even radial graduated filters anywhere in the entire image, they don't keep to the same orientation as you put them in. See, I have one right here for the pillar. It's just brightening up the pillar, and I did this before I did the transform tool. So as you can see, if I go down here and turn off transform tool, this was aligned to how I wanted the pillar, or how the pillar was initially. And then these were on the walls and still bowed in a little bit, and then this one over here was to this pillar. And as you can see, after you toggle the transform tool back on, these don't get adjusted. So you're going to have to readjust all of your dodging and burning, any of your brushes that you have, and anything else that you might have done to this image. I'm not sure if it does it for spot removal tool, but I'm sure it probably messes with that as well. But you're just going to have to go back and readjust the orientations of these tools, just because it doesn't do that automatically for you. It might be a lot to ask for it to do it automatically, but just remember, if you're going to do dodging and burning, try to transform your image beforehand. Alright, so as you can see, that's about everything I needed to do. This is before and this is after. I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching.